Okay, there I am.
Oh, hey, what's
Awesome.
going on?
There you
How are we
are.
today?
How are you?
I'm good. It's kind of like it's been like, like kind of fallish weather, and now it's like hot as hell today. Or maybe I'm just doing more movement outside than I thought, or maybe it's because I've been drinking a bunch of coffee because we're sampling a bunch of new coffees. So it could be one of those. I mean, it sounds horrible, right?
Right. That's a perfect storm. It's like 80 out though, so it is.
Yeah, it's weird. It's very weird.
When we look at what a swear jar is, and then it's typically a device for discouraging swearing, and then all of a sudden I see this and here, this stigma swear jar to encourage people to speak up, to speak out against stigma, to share how they really feel. Expletives and all. So fucking brilliant. And where did this come from? I'm so curious to know.
Well, so with Hope for the Day, all of our work is really wrapped around just how do we empower the conversation around suicide prevention and mental health in a way that invites people to the table instead of isolates them. Because to your point about, white people and mental health, it's been very white privilege for so long. We hear it all the time when we provide education and many different areas. Just here in the Chicagoland area as well as around the world, is that like, oh, you care about this community's mental health, and we're like, yeah, we care about everyone. It's, Black, Latinx, Indigenous, everybody, like the LGBTQ community. Like we want to find the ability to have a seat and for everybody to have their voice be heard. So we at Hope Today can take our clinically backed education and provide it better and make it more impactful, but then also invite more people to it, right? So how do we do that? Well, we can't wait for people to come to it. So we have to empower it. Our tagline, "It's okay not to be okay," it's our battle cry, but I also think of it as kind of like our fish in bait, like this is how we get people. We cast this net out. We don't say, if you're depressed, call this number. Right. We shine a light on it, like, yo, we're all works in progress and it's okay not to be okay. That doesn't mean that you're depressed, have, bipolar disorder, or, you're not crazy or fucked up or insane. That means you're a human being and you're having good days and bad days. Yeah. And where we're at in society now versus where we were even 10 years ago is so much different, because mental health and suicide were in the same dark corner as cancer and HIV. And now, we have the ability to make, breast cancer sexy, and it's because we've brought it into our cultural and our society that this is a problem, and we're going to figure out how to, create these solutions for it. With mental health, no one wants to talk about that shit. Right. So we got to invite people to it. We got to do it in creative ways. That's why we work with coffee, obviously. We work with craft beer because, my uncle, he's one of 16 people that took his life, and he drank himself to death. So, we want to meet people where they're at, really, and not where we expect them to be. That's why we work with Live Nation, and we work at, do outreach at concerts and just do it as so much as we can, because we know that we can get people to come join us. And with the Stigma Swear Jar, we were like, yo, this is fun, because I don't know if you've ever heard me speak live or if you've ever been to any of our galas, but to quote someone from a big Fortune 500 company, I have never been to a gala where the guy in charge says fuck so many times and I feel so empowered leaving the night that I woke up the next morning and I did the action that you asked me to do. I went out there and I talked about mental health.
That's powerful.
So I swear all the time, and I don't mean to, but I know it's not for all, but like, we just need to get past this. And what better way to do it than say, okay, well, traditionally swearing's bad, and we usually, tell people, well, you got to put $1 in the bucket or whatever. With this, we're like, no, we want to encourage it, but yeah, you can go throw your $1 in there, because then that will help us keep educating more people than we ever could have possibly imagined, because education is one of our key, touch points of what our impact really is. Because we're talking about mental health too. We're talking about the invisible killer, and it's sometimes hard to put quantify, like data behind it, and have people go, so okay, so you're providing X amount to this many community members. That's great, where we're talking about a global crisis here, you
Right.
know, that the conversation's been completely neglected. So yeah, we got to swear, we got to get aggressive. And I think if we take from the playbook of Steve Jobs, it's like, you know, in order to think differently, people have to do differently and invite them to think the same way. And we do that too. So Stigma Swear Jar is just a fun way of saying, hey, you can come here, you can have it. This is a safe space to tell Stigma how you really feel. And it's also a fun way for us to raise money, just because we have to be creative in that sense, but it's authentic to who we are. And now we, you know, have cool merchandise to say fuck stigma on it too, which is really rad. So I went to our clinical oversight committee and I was like, hey y'all, like I want to do this. Is there any theory or logic behind swearing as like a stress reducer or anything? And yo, there are so many studies. And I was like, why don't we fucking know this information? Like, God damn it, people. Like, this is how we get through the fucking day, is by talking about it and be like, how was your day? It was shit. All right, cool. I get to understand that your day was shit. How do we make it less shitty now? You know, like, instead of being like, I'm fine.
Right.
Because unfortunately, that's how people live their lives, you know, and some people, especially you know, women more often than most, you know, oh, you're over emotional. Like if you're like, I'm having a fucking bad day, they're like, she's fucking crazy. Yep, you see it. Crazy, woohoo, you know. Go take a chill pill, and like now you get shit thrown at you for saying that because it's not appropriate, right? Especially because we got to learn how to respect one another more than ever, and that starts with respecting the dignity of us individually as well as ourselves.
You know, I think people are adjusting to it's okay to not be okay a little more. I think maybe the last couple of years it's been more accepted. Long way to go, but I feel maybe that, I'm guessing here, 75% of the population suffers from some kind of mental, something from their childhood or dependency or whatever. I mean,
I think stats are always going to be outdated. I think the reality is that we're human beings. We have brains. That means we have good days and we have bad days. So from there, we get to understand what those days look like and how we get through them. That's our little self-care toolbox, right? So we know there's really good tools in there, and then there's some bad tools, but that's okay. You know, within small increments of, you know, whether it's eating, you know, maybe a little unhealthy or, you know, drinking and whatnot, like those things are okay. Like those things happen in society in general, right? But we also need to be like, well, what else are we doing? Like me, I used to never do yoga. I do yoga all the time now. I also committed myself to, you know, being very healthy because I was like, oh, I'm turning 35 in 2020. I need to take care of myself. So even this year, I've already dropped 38 pounds. It's because they're like my little things that I can go and do and take care of myself. But I also, the reward is not just for me, it's for everyone else around me too. And it's been really cool to see that because, again, those are my self-care tools. But like between y'all probably have some similar tools, and then you have some different tools individually because you're two individuals, and that's cool. And that just goes to show you that self-care is a wide table, right? And that's why, again, why we do such a great job of trying to invite everybody to the table is because I want to be like, well, wherever you're at, you and you know to where you need to be and what you got, like, cool, let's learn from those things. Because there are days that those things aren't working. Right. You know, if every day you go and pet your dog and then one day you're like, I'm petting 100 dogs and I'm feeling like shit, usually I'm like, bah, you know, having a time of my life, but right now this ain't working. All right, well, that's cool. That's when you are able to understand, especially through our education, that those are the times where we go, all right, maybe I should ask for some help, you know? And again, that conversation is getting to a place now where it once was never able to be in society. And that's, it's where we're at, you know? It's not just because 2020 is, if it was a movie, you know, it'd be called, No, We're Going to Talk About It. It's because we've been ready for this conversation for the last couple of years. We just haven't embarked in it where we all can understand it. And because of COVID, one of the silver linings is the fact that we all have experienced what it's like to feel some sort of isolation or have to change a routine, use the famous word pivot, But regardless, ourselves as individuals have also been given an opportunity to see maybe some things we needed to see for a long time.
Right.
And that's okay. And that's where it's okay not to be really okay, or that's where it's okay not to be okay. It really comes from is that like this understanding that doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, mental health doesn't give a shit. Stigma doesn't give a shit. And you need to do everything you can in your power to take care of yourself because you know it best. But then when it comes down to getting, proper mental health treatment and care and having to lean on your friends or your family members to get you there, you need to be able to articulate that stuff.
Right.
Because it's not about asking, why do you feel this way? It's what's causing this, because that screams a solution where we live in this place in society where stigma and the lack of education has completely derailed us to have these conversations. And we are also coming to a place where people are understanding that for so long, oh my God, maybe I have been depressed. Maybe maybe this is what this looks like. Oh shit. Cause I went and asked, instead of just like holding it in because I didn't want to be labeled crazy and saying fucked up. Like I get it. I was diagnosed with PTSD in 2018 and I even battled with it. And my therapist over telehealth, because telehealth site, was like, Jonny, aren't you the guy that says it's okay not to be okay? And I looked down and I was wearing an It's Okay Not to Be Okay shirt. And I was like, don't you use my words again. But it's like, it's truly, we got to practice what we preach. So, I really believe in that internally at Hope Today. If we're going to be really a part of the mental health community, and we've provided this year over 25,000 people education this year, even with our pivot, which 21,000 of those has been through Zoom.
Wow.
So imagine like the amount of connection yet disconnection. But last year, we crushed our education numbers. We wanted to keep building that, but it's because we've been also able to build an ecosystem as a company that, spreads this message, but just doesn't do it when it's Suicide Prevention Month. We're doing it all the time. Some people are like, so what is stigma? And you're like,
oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, let's educate you. So we created a "What the fuck is stigma" guide, and then we have dove into stigmas for all these different communities that we want to we work with and we build partnerships with, because we can't just say mental health is an issue. It's like no shit, like tell me something we didn't know, But if it's coming from a white dude, I got to make sure that everybody can be seen behind me, especially as the organization was founded by me and it's led by me. It can also just be Jonny's story, but it's not. It's not about me. It's about we. It really is. And the only way you encompass that is by doing things, and you gotta invite people, and especially in a country where we're still in this conversation about building walls. I don't get it, but like I'm gonna build tables. I'm gonna build chairs, and
I love that.
That's community.
You know what I love about the community that you're building, that it's not just, with Awareness Ties, where it begins with awareness, like this is where it starts, right? But that you go beyond that to say, okay, let's make you aware of what the situation is, and now let's take action. And so you provide the tools to actually, start constructing this new stage on.
You have to plant the seed, right?
Yeah. So you do such a brilliant job. I mean, we were floored when we looked at your website. We really started to dig in deep about all the resources that everyone needs to know that you have, because they are incredible. They're absolutely incredible.
Yeah, they're there, and they're there 24/7. And the thing is it's so important that people understand that asking for help doesn't make you weak. It actually equips you with more tools to be productive on your journey, or your friend's journey, your family's journey. And also, I live by this theory that if we're not going to the people, we're failing at our jobs, which I think a lot of nonprofits do fail at their jobs. They don't really go all in on what they're trying to do. And that's fine. I feel that we're still in startup phase. We're turning 10 next year, which I'm blown away by it. But at the same time, I understand that, when you got a mission to fulfill, you got to do it, right? And you got to tuck and roll. And for me, I'm just grateful to know that, like, with the opportunity to give people that next step, we're able to build more and more people as an arsenal to say, oh, hey, how can, hey, Hope for the Day, how can I schedule a workshop for me and my friends? All these things, right? Like my school, my community, my corporation, like we have answers for all of these things. Yeah. And it's because at one point in time, you know, somebody stumbled across all the things that we do, and I hope that they just felt welcomed and that they could tangibly feel it, and they just didn't feel like they're going to get asked for $1 donation to go to some, you know, shit you can't really see and feel. That's why we opened the coffee shop. It's one of our tangible products that we are able to raise money and go do more work with.
Right.
It's great coffee, but also with our coffee, we work with all the farms and estates we buy our coffee from. We bring our education to them. So again, it's action, you know. It's always just like, yo, what can we go do with what we have to make everyone stronger?
And you're doing an amazing job. You're getting the message out there with it's okay not to be okay. You've opened doors to a new audience with your partnership with Demi Lovato and Marshmello.
Yeah, like, how did that?
Like, that's huge. That opens a lot of doors.
Yeah, it's exciting. The track is very fun. It's still kind of weird and makes me kind of feel like a kid again when I hear it on the radio, and I'm like, this is weird. This is like really weird. You know, and it's I don't know. It's fun. That partnership's been great. It's still so young with the track. You know, we're about to be 2 weeks old. You know, as a song. And it's performing very well around the world. But the partnership came together very organically. Our work within like the Vans Warped Tour from 2014 to 2019, our work with Live Nation for that long too, has really opened a lot of eyes to people because, again, of our aggressive messaging, you know, and just kind of like our branding, you know, like this is a lifestyle brand as much as it is a mental health and suicide prevention organization. Because again, I want people to feel it. I want them to be like, yo, I'm going to wear this message. I'm going to rock this message. I'm going to live this message. And, you know, with that, then we can build out really cool partnerships too. Right. So we have been working with Live Nation for quite some time. They're an amazing partner of ours, and they have an astronomical amount of amazing, massive artists. And what we've been doing behind the scenes has been building out an education opportunity for artists, their crew, their in-house office people, especially during all these really hard times. And out of a couple of conversations, we got an email from Scooter Braun's agency, and Scooter Braun manages Ariana Grande, Justin Bieber, Demi Lovato, and a slew of amazing artists. And so they're like, hey, we want to talk to you about a track we're doing. And I was like, okay, weird. All right, whatever. Like, cool, let's get on the phone. And then I get this invite, and I'm like, who are all these people on here? And I start Googling. I'm like, whoa, I think there's going to be 2 artists here. And I wonder who they are. Okay, wait, it could be these people. It could be these people. So we get on the phone, and they're like, all right, so, you know, the work that Hope for the Day does really has inspired these artists that we're going to tell you who are doing the track. And we're dropping a song, and it's called Okay Not to Be Okay. And I was just like, what? Like, yeah. And I'm like, who is it? And they're like, Demi Lovato and Marshmello. I was like, okay, all right. So what do you need from us? You know, and it was a really beautiful start to a partnership that has allowed us to distribute resources all around the world, and not only have an amazing song, but an amazing opportunity for fans to not just be exposed to what we're doing with Hope for the Day, but just be exposed to this conversation that is so important. And Demi and Marshmello have 2 very unique audiences that came together and have been nothing but a delight to interact with. And we have education opportunities coming up for her fans, and it's just fun. You know, it's fun because you can tell that Demi and Marshmello, even though like they are 2 separate individuals and artists and entities, they really came together on this, and they took guidance from Hope for the Day. You know, and I was like, yeah, so we got these resources, we have all this stuff, and they're like, this is everything we need. And it's because they want to do things, how we say often in house, the right way instead of right away.
Right.
So now it's what we do with this opportunity. and how we continue this conversation once, touring gets back on, on its feet, and we're able to interact with fans more face to face. But right now, it's just been an amazing blessing to have their support and partnership, especially in such a huge month. We learned a lot from what people's perception is and what our reality is within Hope for the Day. Because in 2018, we ended the year off by, Barack Obama tweeting and saying that Jonny Boucher is one of 5 individuals who inspired me this year because of all the work we do at Hope for the Day and Sip of Hope. And we created this coffee shop that invites people to have more than just a cup of coffee.
Wow.
And it was fucking bonkers. You talk about stigma, you talk about your experience versus my experience, like the fact that I got diagnosed with PTSD and I have not served my country. Well, that just kicks one stigma's ass out the fucking window because, that means that, I got exposed to it because of gun violence. Oh, okay. So there's a connection there. Military, weapons, Chicago gun violence, Johnny, here, vet, here you go. You can talk about it. But I'm not like any less or better than that vet, right? I'm like, this is my experience. What's your experience? And that is where we get to learn so much more now in society. But it's also because we got to challenge people, not cancel people. We need to challenge people.
Mm-hmm.
And by challenging people, you can have a safe space to open up about your experience. Mm-hmm. When someone says, well, some stereotypical bullshit, and you're like, well, that's not true, actually. Like, I know a guy named Johnny. He runs his organization. And just because you served the military doesn't mean that you automatically have PTSD, because he has PTSD and he's never served the military. He's talked on military basis. He's definitely drank a bunch of beer on military basis with a bunch of, of our servicemen, women, individuals. So like, yeah, but that's where we're at in society. Boys do cry. I cry all the fucking time, and I'm sure you do too, right?
Right now.
Great. See, let it out. It's as natural as taking a shit, like seriously, think about it like that. I mean, that's the truth. It's a natural function, like we can't, so, but that's where we're at in society. Yet, like I said earlier, we've gotten some pushback, like, oh wait, what is stigma? And I'm like, all right, cool, pull up, and that's where we get to say every year when we do the Stigma Swear Jar campaign, it's just going to get crazier and crazier and crazier because, and for the best way, right? Because that's what we deserve in society. And the more that we push that conversation, the more we're going to encourage people to go, oh, my favorite influencer or my favorite person or my dad just said fuck stigma. I can go say that too.